Hey, what's up, Kalen here. This video I wanted to talk about a framework for hiring junior developers and onboarding them. So this is something I've been thinking about the past week or so, kind of getting excited about like a vision of really helping a lot of people to be able to get great jobs as developers. There's so many people that are struggling in this economy, particularly in the US. Education costs are really kind of out of control. And so I think it'd be really cool. And then within, what I do with Commerce Hero, we're mostly placing senior developers. A lot of the reason for that being that there's such a stiff learning curve with Magento that a lot of companies that have tried to hire junior developers and onboard them have really run into a lot of problems there and not really been able to do it effectively. So that's why sometimes it makes sense to just pay the premium, hire a senior developer, and we're going to continue to do that, and that's a great fit for a lot of people. But what you're really doing there is helping companies to find these very very good developers and things like that. So it would be really interesting if you could figure out. I've been getting feedback from people the last few days on some of these posts and trying to figure out like what experience do people have around onboarding junior devs. First of all, when you talk about a junior developer, that could mean a lot of different things. That could mean to some people somebody that has a lot of PHP experience but no Magento experience. That could mean somebody that has no coding experience, somebody that's fresh out of college. That could be somebody that's fresh out of high school. Um, and so it could mean a lot of different things. It could mean somebody coming out of a code boot camp. But so I think that if some of the feedback I've gotten, some people say, listen, it's going to take 6 months to a year. Other people have said, look, I've seen people get up to speed within 3 weeks, within a month. One guy said, they got a front end developer up to speed within 2 days. And one of the things that was interesting that they said is, hey, don't try to teach them all of the intricacies of how Magento works. Just show them, kind of give them easy sort of safe kind of rails to work within. In other words, hey, here's where you go to modify the HTML, CSS. Here's all the stuff that needs to happen for whatever layouts, or maybe you set that up for them. And then they just have a focused task that they can work on and they can get up to speed on that pretty quickly. So I think that as I'm thinking through this, I think there's probably some best practices around onboarding people. And I'm kind of thinking about, maybe trying to figure out kind of what this framework is and maybe making this an open framework that people can contribute to and we can all sort of try to improve as a community. I got some feedback from some people. I think John Hughes that's doing some interesting content around training. Obviously, Mage2 TV, great content around training. So I think if you could, I think it's a combination of things of screening the talent because that's going to be challenging. You need people that are going to be really dedicated and want to learn, right, and really devote themselves. So there's screening the talent. And then there's kind of curating all the best training materials. That's something I'm thinking about a little bit. I know that there's a lot that Magento's been putting into documentation and things like that. And so I'm curious what the best materials are again for this specific use case of a junior that's getting in. How quickly can you ramp up on Magento and then as a company, what tasks do you give them, right? Are they front end or are they back end? If they're front end, it's maybe a little more straightforward. If they're back end, maybe you're giving them specific areas of the system where you get them to learn those areas first. And maybe there's some best practices around which areas to do first, right? Like maybe you checkout related stuff you save to the tail end, right? And you do you start with simpler things, and so maybe there's some kind of a good standard workflow and a way that you can break up your client work to hand them things. Another thing that I've heard from people is, hey, make sure that you have one senior developer in your company, a one-to-one relationship between a senior and a junior. And so I think that's probably a good, solid best practice so that they have somebody that they can talk to. Also, when you do that, you have to realize that's going to take time from that senior developer schedule. And so figuring out what that time commitment is. So you're maybe losing a little bit of productivity on the senior and you have to be aware of that, right? Like one piece of feedback I got from somebody was, If you're going to then give that senior developer a hard time because their productivity maybe dropped a tiny bit, now they're not feeling so fantastic about that mentoring work that they're putting in. So just it's really not complicated, but lots of different pieces to this. And so having kind of a good solid understanding of what that senior's time commitment is going to look like, maybe breaking off that time, and then also helping the junior is probably one of the most difficult things when you're new to a job, is feeling like an idiot, feeling dumb for asking questions. I heard that a lot. I heard that a lot as one of the reasons why it doesn't work for juniors to work remotely, which is another one of the things I'm kind of interested in. I think if you could make this work on a remote basis, that would again open up this talent pool even wider. But I think the core of it isn't necessarily something that's unsolvable as far as remote versus in person. I think the core thing there is getting them to know what to ask, feel confident in asking for help, and have the right channels in place and the right people that they know who to ask, so that they can ask questions frequently, they can get unblocked, and at the same time that they can also be very self-motivated and self-learning, so that they'll learn to learn on their own, right? So developing those core skill sets. And I've also talked to a few people with code boot camps, and kind of learning about what their processes look like and that kind of a thing. So I think it could be interesting to figure out some kind of a framework for this, for screening talent, for onboarding, and really getting them to be productive. And then also with the companies looking at, at the end of the day, you want this to be profitable for your company, right? You don't want to lose money. Maybe you make an investment and maybe you lose money the first month or two, but if you can have if you can be pretty confident that within 2 months, 3 months, right, that they're gonna be productive and profitable for your company, that's a much easier investment to make versus like, I don't know if they're going to be profitable within a year. I might lose money for a year on this person. That's a very difficult investment for a small business to make. And I think that's a lot of the reasons why some people say, hey, we're just not going to do that. It takes too long. So I think if you could have really reasonable expectations about what that time frame was, and be pretty confident that it would work out, I think that would really change the game for how much companies are able to do this type of hiring, and really to kind of solve, because again, with Karma Zero, we're helping to solve this and helping people to hire senior developers, but it's not cheap. Not everybody can afford that premium. If you could get people in at 50 grand, 60 grand, starting off, which is a fantastic salary in many parts of the country, I think it would really, really change the landscape significantly, and create a lot of fantastic jobs for people. So yeah, so just something I'm thinking about. If you know anybody, whether a junior developer that's interested, feel free to send them my way. If you know any people that run code boot camps that you could introduce me to, even people that work with college students or high school students, career counselors, anybody that you could connect me to, I'd really appreciate that. And if you have any ideas on building out this kind of framework, let me know. Would love to collaborate with people on that. So let me know what you think in the questions and comments, and thanks for watching.